is better. I will say some of you are from the same company, that it seems that's the only company that I tend to have problems with. Last week I actually was doing a Zoom with somebody else, and I was in a different city, and the webinar was actually better, and or my internet access was actually better, and it still cut in and out. So I'm hoping that this is going to work a little bit better for you. Please let me know if it's a little bit better. Interesting. Right. Yeah, and it was yours. So just so you know, the person who just texted me, it is yours, because yeah, I just got done doing a different call and didn't have this issue. So it seems like there's something there with Zoom. Not quite sure what it is. So I hope it's not too bad. Is it a little bit better for everybody? Please let me know, somebody. And if you're just in general, not at the company I'm talking about, because you'll be like, well, that's not me. Let me know if you can hear me okay. And I'm going to mute everybody. Okay. And mute all, yes. Okay, very good. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and get rocking and rolling. I'm going to share my screen again. And it is 1:35 Eastern Time, 12:35 Central Time. So for some of you, this is your lunchtime. This is our last week. I'm going to say some of this over, since that we were just, we had to switch over on the site again. But so this is our last week. A few weeks ago, when you remember, I was not answering chats. And I was just all in it and kept going, and I actually had on mute. Well, then it got me going, if you will, and I actually was talking really fast, which probably makes it go in and out quite a bit, and got in a rush. Good news is we will cover all of the last 4 laws today, and you'll get next week back. My goal with this, though, was really just to hopefully, wherever you're at in your leadership journey, that it reminded you of some foundations that maybe you need to work on as you move forward. Maybe it's just about some leadership laws that we get stuck in a rut in, right? Where we think, what I think this is it, law of sacrifice. Yep, okay. So where we get stuck in a rut and we can get stuck in the, do things my way. Why don't they just go do their job? And, I wish they would just do what they're told, and whatever that is for you, or maybe your manager or what have you, you have to understand that leadership is not a noun, it's a verb. It's something that we do, and it's a lifelong journey to get to the pinnacle. There's 5 levels of leadership, actually, that we teach. And to get to that pinnacle of leadership, but it's all about other people. It's not about managing things. Managing things is just part of leadership. Being a leader means that you know when to manage things and when to lead people. And I think that's the biggest shortcut, if you will, to think about it, is if you're always just managing things and you're not able to switch to a leadership mindset, and you're always just trying to direct people, tell them what to do, where to go, that's not leadership, that's management. When you get other people to come up with the answers, whether it's through coaching or whatever that is, or influence, or teaching them, teaching them to do it, following up, accountability, that's where your leadership skills develop. And that's really the summation of what leadership is it's not about you. It's about them. And how can you get more out of them and with them and through them without directing them? And when you become passionate about this subject, there's very little that will stop you. But it starts with people. If you don't like people, do not put yourself in a position to lead others, because you're doing it for the money or the title, or you're supposed to, it's the next step, but it won't work. It won't be long term. And I've seen some of the best people put themselves into a leadership role, if you will, with companies and end up failing because they did it for reasons other than the people. They did it for their own self-worth, um, um, again, they think it's their next step, if you will, and it won't last. You've got to like people and understand people and want to lean in to learning why people do what they do, for you to move up. There's just no other way around it. And I'm sure you can all think of people that the top salesperson puts into a leadership role. They really didn't do it for that reason. They did it because they knew how to sell the most, and it doesn't last. And they don't know how to lead people, and they don't want to know. They just want to be able to tell you what to do, and now you go do what I did because I'm awesome. And as we know through Strengths Genius, that if you focus on your top 5 strengths, it's not what we do, it's how we do it. And 1 in 33.5 million people do it just like you do it. So if you don't understand the subject of leadership, you're going to fail because you can't get somebody to do it just like you do. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox opening here. But knowing it's our last week, I really, really wanted, I wish I could just come through here and talk to all of you individually about the subject and where you are personally and where is it you want to go. And I'll offer that to you. If you are on this call, and want to have a 30-minute conversation with me and coaching, I'm offering basically free coaching here. 30-minute call about your leadership trek and where you are in your career, and you want to talk about how to marry your top 5 strengths with your leadership role and these laws, and you're like, man, this is the one I want to work on, email me, Shari@relationshiparchitects.coach, and SHARI, and I will set up a time to talk with you. And if you're listening to this recording and you hear this, I'm just offering this to you on behalf of Relationship Architects for investing in yourself. Lori and I are dedicated to helping people become the best they can be. That's why we do this. This is why we have the platform. This is why we have the mentorship. And it's not just a passion, we're dedicated to it. This is our purpose, our life calling. So I used to do, whenever I coach people who speak, I'm like, man, you never give up stage time. So I don't care if you have 1 minute, you get in front of people, you learn, you take it. That's where you get practice. If somebody offers you free coaching, you don't pass it up. So just saying. With that, let's go ahead and dive in. So you have your worksheets. Now again, I hope you print these off and take time to fill them out because I directed them more towards you filling them out for yourself. And I'm going to give you things that you could put notes on the back side of it or in your notebook, wherever it is you take notes, some other notes on these laws. But let's go ahead and jump right in. Law number 18, it's the law of sacrifice. A leader must give up to go up. So really, what does that mean? And I don't mean, like, think about times where you've given up. So if you are an athlete, you give up, eating terribly, right? Or giving up sweets or the Cinnabons or something, right? We give up alcohol, whatever that is. You have to give something up to get what you want. And it's the same thing when it comes to leadership. Understanding what are the sacrifices you might have to make. I guess in a way, I just offered free coaching. So I'm giving up my free time to give it to people I believe in because I want to be a leader or a mentor in your life or your journey or your career, right? So I'm giving up time, 30 minutes to help somebody, but that's a sacrifice in a way, right? And maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you'll look back and go, man, that 30 minutes, being able to talk about it and being able to talk it through. I realize some of my best successes I may never know about. But I realized and I learned this, right? Giving up time, giving up things that we like. What is it that you want that you may need to give up? And it's the same thing with leadership. Think about the role you're in right now. Giving up your time to be here today. You could have been doing anything else other than listening to this call. It doesn't matter what it is, there's a balance. We always have, it's the law of trade-offs, right? If we only have 100% of time in any one day. That's it. Wake up in the morning. We all have the same amount of time, but it's 100%. Where you put that time is a choice. And how you prioritize is a choice. And so you learning to prioritize around leadership it becomes a habit. So when I'm on the worksheets, I put, what sacrifices have you made to get where you are today? One of the best ways to learn is to reflect and go, man, I gave up this, I gave up that. This is when I decided to do this. I had to give up time. I mean, I've worked 7 days a week before for a year at a time to get a business rolling. Did you give up money for an education? And when you gave that up, what did you receive? Because see, understanding this concept that when we're leading people, it's the same premise that in order to gain, we have to give up. And it's the same thing. A lot of times, managers and when I'm talking with managers and leaders, we talk about coaching them. And it's so hard for them to learn coaching because they feel like, man, you mean I have to ask them questions, and have them come up with the answer? I just want to be able to tell them what to do. Great, but it takes longer for them to learn what you're directing them to do. Long term, 2 to 3 years, coaching pays off because they don't come back and ask you as many questions when they figure it out for themselves. But learning to give that up, that need to direct right now because I need to get going, I have results, I only have so much time, and learning to give that up, it's hard for managers and leaders often to understand that concept. So it's, where do you want to be at the end of 2020? And what are some things you may need to give up between now and then to move you further along in your career, your life, right? What financially? Because, and understanding that, so I think I may have told you guys this story. I have a friend who makes GPSs and puts them together and helps program them. When they're doing the GPS, when they're building those, they don't start in California and go from California to New York if that's the direction they're going. If they're in California and they want to go to New York City, they actually start in New York City and work backwards because it's easier to work backwards on your goal versus here's where I am and then just keep going and then go, oh man, I have to give this up and now I have to give this up. Start with the end in mind. It's about typical goal setting, right? But it's the same thing with leadership. We call it the destination disease. Many times managers will think that they have arrived when they're in a role, especially the higher up you go. As soon as you stop learning, and that's what we've learned here is the law of the lid. Remember, somebody who's at this, okay, Siri thinks I'm talking to it. If you are at a 7 and your leader is at a 6 in the leadership ability, you'll only follow them for so long. And if they don't continue learning, then what will happen is you will leave. My prayer for them is that they don't have destination disease. I met a gentleman one time. I would say he was in his, I don't want to say ages, but say upper 60s. He really thought he had nothing else to learn from leadership. And people were quitting on him. He was having turnover like he'd never had before. And when I challenged him and said, what is it that you want to learn this year? There was nothing. And I said, personally, finally we got down to where he wanted to learn a new swing in golf. And that was good because he had to learn that learning is never ending. I've gone through these 21 laws multiple times. And I always find something new. But see, that's because of the way I choose to look at it. Law of sacrifice is all about when you get to the top of one mountain, you're going to see the peak of another one. And either you're going to decide to go to that one or you're going to fall down the side of the one you're on. We're never neutral. We're either moving forward or we're moving backward, even if we think we're neutral, but the rest of the world is moving forward. Therefore, we're moving backwards. Okay, we got to understand where we are when it comes to sacrificing and what is it that we want to do. Where do we want to go? John, in his book, so you can write these down, there are 4 things that you want to know when it comes to law of sacrifice. Now, these aren't on here or even in your worksheet, so you might want to write them down underneath, because the worksheet is really about a development plan for you. Okay? 1, there is no success without sacrifice. Just, it can't happen. What did you give up this morning to be successful at making breakfast? Right? You gave up something else. Like, it's always, every moment in time, we're giving up something to gain what we want. Number 2, leaders are often asked to give up more than others. Oh, this isn't love. This is where entitlement comes into play. I had a manager a few weeks ago I was talking with, and he was showing up late to meetings. He just got promoted. And even if it was on his day off, and he said, well, it's my day off. And, now that I'm doing this, it's not as important, on my days off to get there on time or something. He really believed he didn't have to show up on time on his days off if he came to a meeting. I was like, what? No. If you're leading people, I don't care if it's on your day off or not. In fact, it's more important that you show up. And if you want to be a leader, you better know that you're going to have to give up more than others. Now, it doesn't mean that forever, but to get where you're going, you might have to give up some time. It's called the cost of leadership. Whoops, sorry, I keep hitting that button. Number 3, and you must keep giving up to stay up. Again, just like that gentleman, once you get there, you don't arrive and you're done. It's a constant massaging of time and priorities and values. And if you really truly want to become a great leader with your family, with anybody, with anything that you're leading. And number 4, the higher the level of leadership, the greater the sacrifice. And if you're not willing to sacrifice time, patience, taking time to learn, if you're not willing to invest in those things, you probably won't stay in a leadership role for very long. The law of sacrifice is, it really comes down to servant leadership and serving yourself in a good way, positive way, serving others. Okay, every time I say serve or something, Siri thinks I'm talking to it. All right, sorry about that. All right, so law of sacrifice, you have to give up to grow up. And every day ask, what am I sacrificing? Now, here's the thing. If you're everything has pros and cons. If you're sacrificing too much, I said earlier, I went a year without taking a day off. It was after a year, my husband sat me down and said, Sherry, you are sacrificing me. On Sundays, we used to do all these things, and now you're not even doing that. I was willing to give you up for a while, but now it's a habit. When's this going to end? So there's that constantly, battle of what we're doing. So that's why every day you have to assess, where are you at today? What are you going to work on today? And I don't believe in balance. I think you guys have heard me say that before. Balance is, it's all relative. What do you need today to feel balanced? Today, I might have to work 12 hours to feel balanced in my work. And then tomorrow, I might need to take the full day off. But it's, what do you need today to feel balanced? Because if you're always living in the future, you're not going to feel balanced. And if you're always living in the past, you're never going to feel balanced. Which actually is a great segue for law number 19, the law of timing. When to lead is as important as what to do and where to go. So we were talking about earlier, the leading people and managing things. Okay, so that's really what this is about. When to lead is knowing what to do when. And this comes with experience and time and maturity. On the worksheet, I put the wrong action at the wrong time leads to disasters. Like, think about when you've done things at the wrong time and you're like, oh my gosh, I totally, often I have find people who are achievers, and whether it's in your top 5, the talent theme or not, you're motivated by achievement. We can push a little bit too hard and it ruins timing. We don't have patience. Think about, and John writes about it in the book too, but if you've ever watched the movie Lincoln, one of the best movies of all time when it comes to leadership, at the end when he's pushing through the law and they need him to, he needs a note saying that whether or not, I can't remember what it was, they have taken over one part and not the other part of the country. Anyway, he sends a note and it's basically a lie. He misleads them. He doesn't tell the truth. He doesn't tell a lie. And they get back over there and he said, I'm not sure. And they read it aloud. And knowing when to do that, if he would have done that before that time, the amendment would have never, the 19th Amendment would have never happened. Timing, when to lead others, is just as important. Do you know when to let people fail? This is one of the hardest things for people who are in a management role, is letting people fail. Are you willing to let some people fail sometimes? Are you willing to fall on the sword for that? See, the right action at the wrong time can bring resistance. People are like, wait. It's the right thing to do, but they're like, I'm not ready for that. Where are you coming from? So there's always this intuition of when to lead and how to lead and what does that look like. Now, on your worksheet, we put good leadership requires understanding, right? You got to understand the project, understand the people. There's so much understanding that you truly, if it's your passion to become a good leader and to leave a legacy, which we'll be talking about here, maturity. What are your motives? Like, being able to respect somebody. I can look at people and go, man, don't really like what's happening there, but I feel like their motives are pure. Do you know when somebody's motives are not pure? You know when you feel like they're leading you, but they're manipulating you? I mean, how does that feel? Oh, I hate that. So don't do it, right? Don't you do that. Maturity and manipulation is not leadership or influence. Confidence. Are you willing to be out front when it comes to leading others and letting people fail, and then and not say, you know what, I'll go to my boss. I've done it in the past and said, listen, here's what we're doing. They really think they have it down. They would listen to me if I wanted to, but I have a feeling the best way for this person to learn, so let's let them fail on this one. Yeah, but we need the results. We need this. We need that. Blah blah blah. And I'm like, do we want them to stay around? I don't want to be investing, 20 more hours every week in training this person. The best way for this person to learn is to let them fail. And as a leader, are you willing to stand behind that? The decision you've made, that takes confidence in leadership ability. Decisiveness, being able to make decisions. Even if you are analytical, even if you are, whatever your top 5 are, when are you best at making decisions, and when do you need to work on that? Experience. Intuition. Remember the law of intuition. It comes through experience. Being able to rely on that. And being prepared. You have to set your team up for success. And timing is everything on that. So you have to know the importance of timing. Here's 3 things. They're not in your worksheet, so you can write these down. The wrong action at the wrong time will lead to disaster. How about can lead to disaster? The right action at the wrong time brings resistance. So you might be doing what's right, but if they're not willing to buy into it, the law of buy-in, if they're not willing to feel it, or whatever's going on, you're just going to get resistance. So you might ask yourself, is this a law of timing issue? You're doing what's right, they're not ready to accept it. Now, it might be one of the other laws, but just know that the right action at the wrong time will bring resistance. And the third thing is the right action at the right time brings ultimate success. So learning timing is just, it's one of the most important things you can do. And I'm going to add one more. I'm going to add one more. It's not on here. But the wrong action at the right time leads to mistakes. The wrong action at the right time leads to mistakes. Why is that? Because, I mean, think about it. It's the right time, and really it comes down to decision making. If you make the wrong decision, then it's going to lead to a mistake. So learning timing and decision making and putting those two together is really, or confidence in decision making, whatever that is, that really rounds out the law of timing. Timing is something that can totally be, I think it really totally leads to ultimate leadership experience. Knowing when to say things, how to say them, that's all in law of timing. It all plays into it. So when to lead is as important as what to do and where to go. Okay. The law of explosive growth. Now, this is one of my favorite ones. This one and the last one, law 20. To add growth, lead followers. To multiply, lead leaders. What does this mean? Unfortunately, I have found that many people who are immature in their leadership journey think it's about having followers, especially in today's world when social media is all about the followers. How many followers do you have? How many followers do you have? And then they put a value on it. And I see the value in that in a marketing sense, but unfortunately that same mindset goes into our leadership. And we think if they're following us, we must be the leader. And that is so not the truth. Leaders who attract followers, leaders who attract followers can have some success, but it won't be long lasting. So on your worksheets, okay, here's people who attract followers. Here's some characteristics. So you might be thinking about this. They need to feel needed. They tend to focus on the bottom 20%. Why is that? If you have somebody who's a leader and they're developing followers, they're going to go to that bottom 20%, and it's a trap. Leaders who are developing leaders, you should be focusing on your top 20%, not your bottom. Now, I didn't say ignore them, but if you have a week and you have 5 people and 2 of them are at the bottom and 2 of them are at the top, you spend 3 days with those top 2 and you spend 2 days with the other 3. It's spending time with our top people. However, it's so easy to get in that trap and focus on the people who are at the bottom of the growth. Now, it doesn't mean you don't focus. Again, you spend time with them, but you manage it. But otherwise, you're just going to develop followers. They're going to follow you forever. And those people who are at the top will leave you. People who focus on followers focus on weaknesses and not strengths. Now, I don't think I have to go into that much if you've studied Strengths Genius at all in StrengthsFinder. They tend to treat everybody the same, whether they have consistency or not. It's safe. Think about that. Why? It's safe. But they want people to follow. When you're working with somebody who's better than you, I mean, I used to look for people who were better than I was in sales. They kept me on my toes, and they taught me. I don't need to know everything. I needed to know about the organization I was leading. But if they're great at sales, I would say, you're better at this than me. Here's what I want you to focus on, though. Here's what we need to focus on. Here's the growth. How will you achieve that? And let them come up with the answer. But if you're focusing on developing followers, they just want to add people. It doesn't matter. It's really quantity versus quality. How's that? So you can write that down on there. Now, leaders who develop leaders, that's your goal. They want to be succeeded. You're looking for people to take your job and be excited about it, because that just means you're going to get promoted or move on to another position. You'll develop the top 20% and manage the bottom. They focus on strengths, which all of you are familiar with. They treat individuals differently. Now, you maybe have consistency because of your role or just that's how you're wired. So you do believe rules apply to everybody. But each person, if you have a top 20%er, you're treating them the same as a bottom 20%er, you're actually not developing your leadership skills. So my question for you is, if you have consistency in your top 5, how can you be consistently investing in each person differently? Because your top 20% needs different things than your bottom 20%. While your processes can be the same, how can you do that? That would be the question I have for you. They grow by multiplication. See, I know if I develop leaders, all of you, you're going to go out and impact the masses. That's my ultimate goal, is to reach them. I can't do it myself. That's my purpose. But so it's got to be through this, which I love to do, because again, I know all of you, if you're here, you love the subject of leadership, you want to move forward, you're going to treat people better than other leaders will. And that's how I can affect masses down the line in my life, in my legacy. So it's about multiplication. And I was going to tell you guys something. Yes. Oh yeah, here's where you can write this down. Okay, I keep forgetting to move these. So there's everything we just talked about. Okay. You want to be a leader who develops other leaders? Write this down. If you develop yourself, you can experience personal success. Make sense? I'll give you time to write these down. If you develop a team, your organization can experience growth. So it's about developing a team, not putting a team together. We could be on a team, but not be a team. You've got to develop the team. So if you develop a team, your organization can experience growth. But if you develop leaders, your organization can achieve explosive growth. That's why this is called the law of explosive growth. This is not about one by one by one. This is about finding people that you can lead, that you can multiply the top 20%. Now, in your family, if you want to multiply your success or your financial success, right? It isn't about saving $1, it's about investing $1. How can you get that dollar to pay you $3 versus just keeping that dollar safe? See the difference? Hear the difference? So here's when we put on there the leaders need to be needed. So here we go. Leaders who attract followers need to be needed, but leaders who develop leaders want to be succeeded. Leaders who attract followers develop the bottom 20%, which we just talked about, and leaders who develop leaders develop the top 20%. Leaders who attract followers focus on weaknesses, and leaders who develop leaders focus on strengths. Leaders who attract followers treat everyone the same, and leaders who develop leaders treat individuals differently. So it's really about multiplication. So here's what you need to know, though. Here's the challenge to leading leaders. Number one, leaders are hard to find. True leaders are hard to find. Not everybody you're working with was meant to be a leader. Not everybody in a leadership role is meant to be a leader. True leaders are hard to find. It's a challenge. If you have a team of 5, one of them will probably end up going on to be a leader. And if that's your passion, understand that, and that's okay. Number 2, leaders are hard to gather. So it's hard to bring them all in one place. If they're hard to find, it only makes sense that they're hard to gather. But here's the biggest one. Leaders are hard to keep. That has to do with the law of the lid. Because once you get somebody who's leading, if you don't know how to develop a leader, they're going to constantly be looking for ways to lead. I told you guys about the example of my previous company, why I ended up actually leaving. I outgrew him. And when he stopped developing me as a leader and said I was going to go back to being like a project manager as a director, I was like, what? You think I'm going to go backwards in my growth? Not happening. 6 months later, I was gone. 9 years. Took 6. One time he said, I'm not going to develop you anymore. We're going to take this role. They were scared to grow themselves. There's lots of reasons. So leaders are hard to keep. There's leaders will learn to blossom without other people, and they don't need you. Once they get on that role, so your job then is to constantly be asking them, how can I help you? So to really get the, sorry, I'm just thinking, I've got so many things going through my head right now. I just want to share everything I have in my head. But to get the real benefits of the law of explosive growth, number one, develop yourself, which is why you're here. Number two, develop your team, which hopefully is why you're here as well. And number three, develop leaders. In Strengths Genius, we have a thing called Strong Communities. And our goal is to have 10% of every community take StrengthsFinder assessment and experience one Strengths Genius workshop. So if you want to bring this into your community, let me know. Through that, of course, Lori and I can't do it all on ourselves. So we're training other people to teach Strengths Genius workshop number one, so that we could go into every city, every community, and have 10% of a community take it so that they become a strengths-based community, and it's called a strong community. And that's according to Gallup. To be a strengths-based community, you have to have 10% of a community take StrengthsFinders, and we want them to go through a workshop though, so they really understand it. So that's our big goal, is to have 300 communities. This year, we want 10 communities. We have 3 started, but what we're doing, the reason I'm telling you is this, we can't do it ourselves. So we're training other people to become the leaders, the facilitator in their communities, because our goal is bigger than what Lori and I could do. So if you want to bring this to your community, so like in where I live at, there's a population of about 6,000 people between 2 little towns. It's a 2 little town thing. That's 600 people. I'm meeting with somebody on Wednesday that she's going to bring, we're going to do a workshop. She's going to find the money to do it, but we're going to start there. We're going to start with 20 people. And our goal then in the next 3 years is to get 600 people to take it, so that this community, and think of what they're going to get from that. They're expanding manufacturing. They want to have 200 more jobs. Well, our population isn't growing. Where are they going to get those from? So they can say, man, we're a strengths-based community. So our goal, the reason I'm telling you this, is our goal is to develop other leaders. It isn't just a Lori and I can do it. It's not about that. So we had to find a way to do it. How are you developing other people if you want to ultimately be a leader? Okay. Law of explosive growth. So number 21. I feel like, on Jimmy, is it Jimmy Fallon, right? The top 10. No, it's David Letterman. The top 10. We have the top 21. What is the law of legacy? Okay. A leader's lasting value is measured by succession, which is actually a good segue. Lori and I, our goal is to have we have a huge goal of having people take StrengthsFinders and go through Strengths Genius. But it's ultimately, that's what we want our legacy to be. So then we had to figure out a way to develop leaders. We have to know our timing. We go down this road of going back, where's our lid at? We go to 2 workshops a year just to invest in ourselves. We're constantly developing our leadership ability if we're going to lead a group of people who are going to lead their communities. See how this all just kind of falls into place? So the law of the legacy is, what do you want to be known as? When you look at your worksheets here, Here, I love what this says. A leader's lasting value is measured by succession. Know the legacy you want to leave. Most people simply accept their lives, they don't lead them. Your life is your book, and you've probably heard this cliche before. What do you want people to say about you when you're older, when you're gone? And if this is hard for you to think about, that's why it's a law, and very few people think this way. What do you want to be known as? What do you want to leave? And maybe it's not as big as developing a community of other leaders. Maybe it's foster children. Maybe it's it could be technological. You're building a database that you hope grows and helps somebody else. What's it going to say? What's your final chapter going to say? And I hope you take my challenge to all of you this next week and in the next couple weeks is to take this and take 5 minutes a day, 5 minutes every morning, and focus on one of these questions and answer them. If you're going to really lean into these laws, what's your sentence of the day going to be? Who's going to carry your legacy? You know, how do you want people to see you? And if you don't know it, and I asked you, here's what the other thing on this worksheet, write a legacy statement. I have a mission statement. It's so funny because I have it upstairs in an old office and it's up on the board. And I had it on poster board the very first time I wrote it, and I put it on the ceiling. And it's still there. So anybody, now it's a guest bedroom. And it's so funny because people will go in there and they come down there like, I love your mission statement. And my vision statement of what I wanted. I did it like 7 years ago. And I encourage you to go through this activity, if you will, until, if you haven't ever written it down, it's not going to happen. And some of you have heard me say this before, that once you get a taste of significance, which is all about legacy and developing others, you'll never settle for success again. Success is about yourself and what you have achieved. Significance is about how you're helping others and being a servant leader. And what does that look like? What are you leaving behind? What is it you want? This is a law. So I hope this doesn't get lost. This is a law of leadership. You've got to know your bigger purpose. If you truly want to reach the pinnacle of your life and lead yourself and lead your family and lead other leaders and get promoted and have success financially, it's a law. Very few people stumble into a legacy. Now, they might have stumbled into it in the beginning, but to make it happen, it doesn't just happen. I was reading last week a book. It said, because we were talking about how long it takes to develop a business, and it said, yeah, I read that it takes 20 years to become an overnight success. I was like, that's probably about right, because we're at year 7, Lori and I together. So we got a long ways to go. But you figure 13 years from now, we actually could hit 300 facilitators and have 3,000 communities, because it'll multiply, law of multiplication. So here's what I want you to write down in closing. Personnel determine the potential of an organization. So who you choose to hang around, who you choose to develop, it's going to determine the potential of the organization. Relationships determine the morale of the organization. So I'm going to go back to number 1 again. Personnel determines the potential of the organization. Who you hire, who you put around you, even in a volunteer organization, that determines the potential. Relationships determine the morale of the organization. If you hire a bunch of negative ninnies, I don't think I need to say more, but if you're in an organization where everybody's positive, man, that's awesome, right? No wonder the morale's so good. The culture's good. Okay, structure determines the size of the organization. So how Lori and I put this together will determine the size of it. How, you know, your finances, how your budget is. The structure will determine the size. If you have a bigger spending budget on frivolous things than you do on saving, what are you going to get? So your structure determines the success and the size of the organization. Vision determines the direction of the organization. So vision determines the direction of your family. Vision determines the direction of your church, of your faith, of the group. Vision determines the direction of the organization. And leadership determines the success of the organization. It starts at the top. You're only as, I could think of every cliche, you're only as strong as your weakest link. If the leadership at the top is weak and they don't understand these laws, or they practice 3 out of 20, they lean too much on something, or they lean too much on vision and not structure. See how it's all, it's a circle. It's not linear. They all are interwoven. It's a tapestry, whatever it is you want to call it. But leadership determines the size of the success of the organization. Are you being the leader you would want to follow where you are at right now? And if you wouldn't follow you right now in any one area of your life or your leadership or your role, what are you going to do moving forward to change it? This is law of legacy. So I'm going to end with everything rises and falls on leadership. And you first lead yourself, which is why all of you are here. Now, again, I'm extending this offer. If you want 30 minutes just to talk through something, ideas, strengths coaching, leadership coaching, or if you're listening to this recording, now don't send this on to other people and say she's giving free coaching, because I'll probably ask a couple questions and say, hey, tell me what your favorite law was, like, so then I'll know if you were on here or not. But I want to extend that to everybody. We will probably be doing, we will be doing another course. I'm getting the dates together through StrengthsGenius.coach. July, August, it'll be the 15 Invaluable Laws of Personal Growth. You will need the book for that one though, because it's a little bit different. And I'll make sure I put that in the emails and on StrengthsGenius.coach. We also, just so you know, we've uploaded some other cards, if you will. If you're studying your strengths, there's the dynamic cards have been uploaded into StrengthsGenius.coach. We have the theme insight cards that are in there now. If you are interested in hearing more about Strong Communities and want to bring that to your community, let us know. We would be happy to talk to you about that and how we can get a workshop there for you, and what that would look like, and who would pay for it and all of those things. So let us know. We're here to help you. That's why this is here, is we're here to help all of you, and on your journey of strengths and on your journey of investing in yourself and your own development. And I hope this has been valuable to you, all of you. So I'm going to unmute everybody. And I know some of you are with groups, so you might mute yourself, but I've unmuted you. Let me know, it was as helpful? Did you like this study? What was your favorite law? Or you can text it. You can chat too.
The class was very interesting.
Very interesting. So interesting in, like, you've heard some of these things before, but you've heard some new things.
I think it opened up a lot of areas for you to think and to work on. So I found it very, I really did. I found it very knowledgeable.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank everybody who has invested time in this over the last, I hear somebody's phone ringing, so I am going to just mute everybody. I want to thank everybody, whether you were on here live 1 week, 5 weeks, you were listening to every recording, and I encourage you to be on live with the 15 laws when we start that. But I just want to thank everybody for investing in yourself, because this, you know, what you do with this is completely up to you. It doesn't matter. Lori and I are investing in you, but if you don't take this and move forward, then I don't know why you are here. So our goal is wherever you're at in your journey of life, of leadership, and success, and goals, and all of those things, we hope that this added value to you. And I encourage you to let other people watch this with you, or send it to somebody. This was open to the public. And feel free to send the recordings on to somebody if you feel like it. And I hope some of you take me up on some of the coaching this week. With that said, I'm going to let you all go, and here's to your building your significance and your success in the future, and we're glad that we get to be a part of that. So thank you all for being part of StrengthsGenius.coach, and I look forward to seeing you on the next course. Bye, guys.